Very good. Brendan's mic's live, so Rob Dorset, if you'd like to start us off, please.
Hi, Brendan. Good to see you.
Hi, Rob.
Are you well?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Thank you.
Good man. Brendan, I wanted to start by asking you one that we're asking all Premier League managers today, and it concerns the governance of the game, which is a huge subject. How best to run English football is something that a lot of people have had their say on this week. Project Big Picture has been thrown out by the Premier League clubs, but it could come back in a different guise. And now Gary Neville is fronting a new group that wants more money from the Premier League to go to the lower league clubs. And he wants independent regulation of football. I appreciate that's not easy to talk about in one answer in a press conference, but you'll have seen a lot of what's happened this week. What are your thoughts on it all, please?
Well, I think by the nature of the question and how you've asked it, Rob, I think it demonstrates how complicated an issue it is. For many years, there's been so many elements to the organisation of the game, but I think what is most important is that everyone comes together. I think that would be the most pleasing aspect if all the governing bodies and all the organisations that have a say in running football come together for the greater good of the game, and that's through every level, from the grassroots right the way through. So like I said, it's a complicated issue, but of course it's an issue that definitely needs looking at, and one I'm sure that with everyone together working for the same cause, then I'm sure that will be the best solution for the game going forward.
Thank you. Domestic transfer window closes later this afternoon. We've had two windows in this month, which is extra special. I think you're focusing on outgoings and trying to get some of the younger players maybe some experience. Is there anything you can update us with on that with regards to Benkovic and Matty James and Dewsbury Hall, for example?
No, I think that the three players that you've mentioned, there's movements around those guys going out, Rob, but as I said, it'd be important for those guys to get games for various reasons. So we'll just wait and see what the afternoon brings for them. But we hope they can get the moves that they want and what we want, and they can get out and get the game time, which will be important for them.
Does Luke Thomas come into that category as well?
No. Luke will stay. We'll assess that again in January.
Thank you. At the international break, I don't think has been too kind for you, but if you could update us on Chaglas Soyuncu. He didn't play in any of the games for Turkey. Coach said he had a hamstring problem, and then Johnny Evans was substituted at half-time for Northern Ireland. What we were told was a groin problem. How are those two? It's the last place you need injuries in centre-back at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. We think that Cags will most definitely be out with an abductor strain, so we just need to we're just waiting on the scan from that. Johnny, like you say, has come back with an abdominal pain, so again we'll review that. What else we've got? We've actually got a number. We've got Vards, who has an issue around his calf, so we're waiting a scan on that. Dennis Pratt, obviously, had gone away and done some work with the Belgium team, and again we'll see how he is, but he'll be a doubt. And obviously Daniel Amarte is out with his hamstring for a number of weeks. So yeah, the international break hasn't been too kind for us with the players coming back with doubts, and we think that Cags is definitely out for a number of weeks. But until we get the final scans, that'll determine the length of time.
Wow. Particular problems in defence then. How do you plan to address that? And does it mean that Wesley Fofana will almost certainly make his debut? Yeah,
I've got no qualms about Wesley coming in to play. He's been playing in the early part of the season. He's gone away. He's played for the French under-21s, and we brought him in because he's a big talent. But he's ready to come in and play now, even though he's such a young player. So if I have to play Wesley, I've got no qualms about that. We'll see how Wes is also, and Wes Morgan, and then we'll assess it over the next 24 hours. But we're hopeful that Johnny will be okay. And that would be obviously that'll be a great bonus for the team.
Is Ricardo? It's still too early for Ricardo, I presume. You can't throw him in. He's still not ready to actually play matches. Would that be fair?
Yeah. Ricardo and Wilf, these guys are way off it yet. Yeah.
Okay. How's James Maddison as well? We haven't talked about him. He had a calf problem.
Yeah. Well, he's been out with the rehab team and joined in the training, so he'll be available to play some part of the weekend. So, which is great news for us because he's hugely missed. He's a really talented player for us, and again, it's just getting his season going, and hopefully he can stay injury free now.
It's a big blow to you to have those injuries that you're dealing with this time. Do you suspect you'll have to, I don't know, patch up a little bit and play people out of position? Is that what you're thinking?
We'll just see, Rob. Again, like later on today, we'll get a better idea of the availability of the players. But I know whatever players that comes into the team will give their best, and we've seen that already with the like of Wolf going out. We Papis Mendy come in, and he's been outstanding since he's played. So it'll be unfortunate if some of these guys miss out, but it's going to provide an opportunity for other players to come in, and the team will get a very strong spirit, and the mentality is really good. So the guys, if they have to come in, they'll be ready to perform.
A quick couple on Villa then, if that's all right. 100% start for them. I mean, they've strengthened incredibly well. And after their brush with relegation, do you expect them to be competing much higher up in the division this season?
Yeah, I think for last season it was always going to be difficult for Villa, and I think Dean done fantastically well. They obviously knew they were coming up late, then they had to get in an influx of signings. They had a lot of loan players, so that takes a bit of time, and obviously you don't quite get into your rhythm. And of course, the nature of the Premier League, it's so competitive. Then it can be difficult for you. But they got the job done in the end. Recruited very, very well in the summer. If you look at the goalkeeper, and Ross Barkley is a huge signing for them, because I think he playing in his natural position as number 10. He could really blossom there, and obviously Jack Grealish staying is a massive help for them. So I think, like you say, they've started very well. They have an outstanding result against Liverpool. I think everyone's seen that, and it'll be a really, really tough game for us.
Last one from me then. You mentioned Grealish there. I wonder if you could give us an objective coach's view on him, because obviously there's been a big clamour for him to play for England, which he did against Wales and put in a man-of-the-match performance. But he didn't play in the 2 games after that, and it looks like it's going to be a constant discussion around that England team. But as a manager yourself and a coach yourself, do you understand the quandary that he poses because of the unique sort of player that he is?
Yeah, but players like Jack and James here will always present a problem. But obviously, with regards to England, they've got so many good players. You know, if you play Jack on the left-hand side, you then leaving out Raheem Sterling, who's a world-class player for me. You know, and but I think that England are very fortunate to have his talent. Jack Grealish is, you know, he's I've seen the improvements in him as he's grown as a young player. His personality on the field is absolutely fantastic, and he's got a real inbuilt brain for football. When I see him, when he carries the ball, his awareness of his space is really shows me the talent that he has. He understands where his space is, gets tackled a lot. He stays on the ball a bit longer than other people, and draws fouls, but he also draws people out of position. And his wit of pass is exceptional. You know, how he slides people in, and just his touch on the ball. So he's a marvellous player, and like I say, he's one of a number of players that are with England that are very talented. But he, like you say, is a bit like James, where they're not the same position. You know, I think our James Maddison will play sort of more central and as an 8 or a 10, and Jack looks his best position is drifting in off the side and finding the gaps and working out of that shape. So. But not a very, very talented player, and one that he looks a real good boy as well.
Thank you, Brendan. Good luck, mate.
Cheers, thank you.
Okay, Andy from PLP, please.
Afternoon, Brendan.
Hi.
You said you'd use the international break to assess the opening 4 games rather than just the West Ham defeat. I was wondering how, once you've had a couple of weeks to assess the start of the season, how you have assessed it from a Leicester standpoint.
Yeah, I think we started the season very well. Winning 3 out of 4 games. Performance level in the first 3 games, very high. Different types of games. Different performances needed. Very good in the attacking side, and defensively we've got areas that we can work on, but in the main we were very good. The West Ham game was again another lesson for us in the Premier League, where if you're not right on your level, and the first 3 games I felt we were, but if you're just off your level in the Premier League, you can lose, and that was us. We, the 2 big things in the Premier League is you've got to be competitive and you've got to work very, very hard. And if you can do that, that gives you a greater chance of getting results. And for us, we didn't start well in the game. And we got punished. We gave away 2 poor goals. And then against a team that defended very well and attacked well in counter-attack, it was a difficult day for us. So, but over the course of the 4 games, there have been so many positives for us. And now we enter into this next period of games, which is a really exciting period for us. So we're really looking forward to it.
You talked there about the kind of lessons learned from that West Ham defeat. This is, of course, a developing team, as you keep referring to them as. Did you get the feeling in the immediate aftermath from that defeat that they have learned from that the lessons have been continually learned?
Well, that's a continual process. You get bumps along the way, and that's how you respond to that. So I don't think we've seen that performance coming. However, I know this group well enough, and I know the honesty in the group, that we were bitterly disappointed with it afterwards. And like I say, it was hard because the players didn't go away on international duty. But we regrouped again this week. Most of the guys back in today, which is great to see them. And yeah, we'll look to move on to our next game and get back to their level. Because that's what I've always said about this team. The development from last season, we showed lots of potential, but can we get that consistency into our game? So that's a big game for us this season.
I know we talk about the injuries and the bad luck for Leicester that have come off the back of the international break, but Kasper Schmeichel, a fantastic display against England, including that save from Mason Mount, a wonderful save. You must be delighted with his form right now. Yeah,
he's a top-class keeper. Since the day I walked in, he's been absolutely brilliant on and off the pitch. On the field, he's got real personality. Plays with a calmness, plays with an authority in the game, and then when he has to make big saves, like you've seen with Denmark, he makes them. But he's got a great desire, Kasper, to maximise his talent and the team's talent. And he's been first class since the first day I came.
Just on those new signings as well, and I know you talked about Wesley Fofana there, but Cengiz Under as well. How important is it that they're players who aren't just, good enough to play for Leicester in the system that you employ, but they can slot into the team ethic, the team spirit that you're clearly developing at Leicester?
Well, that is important. It's vitally important because that's part of our recruitment process, understanding the profile of not just the player on the field, but what they're like off it. So yeah, you need to have players that can adapt and fit into that culture that you create, and that's obviously key when you are bringing in players. It's one of the things that we like to find out about them. So we've got no doubts on the boys that we have brought in. And we look at Castagna, it's why he's settled in so well. He's come in, Timothy, and been absolutely brilliant on the pitch, but straight away developed a great relationship with the players off it. And it'll be the same with Wesley. He'll, start to learn English, which will really benefit him over his time here in England. And Jinga as well. He's a player that's coming in. He's a bit behind in terms of his football fitness, but they've got a long season ahead of them and an exciting season to fit in and play with this team.
Just a couple of quick final ones from me. Just on Villa, you mentioned the Liverpool results. I think it shocked everyone in world football, let alone just here in the country. What could you learn about Villa from that performance and that ridiculous result against Liverpool?
Well, I think it shows you their talent. I think that if you look at the structure of the team, they've got good power and good strength in the team. They've recruited well, and they've got players that can give you a problem if you're not at the top of your game. So I think they scored 7 and maybe felt they could have got 1 or 2 more goals as well. So it shows you've got to have that full concentration at this level, or else any team can punish you. Like you say, no one sees the results coming. It was like us the week before at Manchester City. But if you're not quite at the top of your game at this level, then you can come unstuck. So it's a game we're looking forward to, coming back in again, continuing with what's been a really good start for us, and then getting back on track again.
And just very finally, Brendan, I think a lot of talk with Villa has been about the talk of their midfield strength. We've already talked about Ross Barkley, Jack Grealish, John McGinn as well, Douglas Luiz. How important do you think that midfield battle is going to be at the weekend?
Well, it's across the pitch, really. Of course, you always want to dominate the middle of the park. That's an area which is important. But to win any game at this level, it's about your team. Of course, you get talented individuals that can make the difference. But to win, and we had tough games against Aston Villa last season, both in the cup and in the league. And to get good results, you need to be strong as a team. So that'll be our emphasis throughout the game.
Top man. Best of luck at the weekend, Brendan.
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Ian Stringer, please.
Hi, Brendan. I hope you're able to hear me okay. A couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind, for our friends north of the border ahead of the Old Firm this week, if you wouldn't mind indulging us. There, of course, enormous games, but no crowd, Brendan, on this occasion. And we all know that the importance of the crowd is enormous. But I wonder whether you can try and explain to us what the week building up to an Old Firm game is like as a former manager. People stopping you in the supermarkets, the added pressure of, in the streets. How does it ramp up that week?
Well, the Celtic Ranger games are games that the run into them goes away beyond the week leading in. It normally starts itself, from 2-3 weeks out, So, but it's such a passionate derby. Incredible games to be involved in. I can't even imagine them without the supporters, to be honest. I think it was when I was there for the majority of the games that I played, it was full support, and then in the final year it was with only the home support and maybe only about 800 of the away support. But there'll be totally different games, I'm sure, without the supporters. But it's an iconic game, a fixture that is like no other. I've been lucky enough to be involved in Liverpool-Everton games and Liverpool-Manchester United games. Even the Swansea City-Cardiff, there was an edge to that when I was at Swansea. But nothing compares to Celtic Rangers. It's a total different intensity altogether. And
I think we just had a bit of a technical issue at the end, Brendan, but we certainly got the sentiment. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you're still able to hear me. I just want to pick up on what Rob Dorset spoke with you regarding injuries, and just after a bit of clarification, Brendan, forgive me, but your fit and available centre halves for Sunday, are they Wes Morgan? Is Wesley Fofana fit and available? Because there was a bit of talk of a COVID-19 outbreak around his presence over the last few days. So are Big Wes and Little Wes available, Brendan?
Yeah, well, Little Wes is definitely available. I believe he's fit and fine, and Skipper Wes, he's obviously had some issues with an ongoing issues had for many years with the sort of his lower back, but we're hoping that if he's required, then he'll be available to play. So that's in terms of where we're at the moment, and then we're waiting on Johnny Evans just to see what the scan reveals with him. and again Kagler, but we think he will be out because of the scans that we got through from the Turkish Federation.
And Christian Fuchs is okay. I know he's an option for you at centre half.
Yeah, well, it would depend on how we would play. Christian wouldn't be someone that I would look at in a back four, but if we played a three, then he's certainly an option.
So if things don't come back positively for Johnny Evans, is there a chance that your two fit centre halves are Wes Morgan and Wesley Fofana?
Yes.
And you have let a few of your younger players go out on loan, I know, to get experience, but that leaves you a tad short, Brendan.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're at, and it's also about the availability of players to be able to play at the level. It's okay having young players, but if they're not quite to be able to play at the level, then of course you don't want to stop their development. You need players that's going to be here and able to play, and if they're not, then they either need to get experience to get out and get games, either to be here or to go and have a career elsewhere.
Just on injuries, Brendan, I'm just thinking back because I try my best to monitor injuries, and hip stroke groin area kind of injuries for the football club in the last 6 months. James Maddison had a hip problem, Soyuncu an adductor problem, Johnny Evans an abdominal problem, Wilfred Ndidi a groin problem, Jamie Vardy has had a continuing hip problem, Christian Fuchs had a groin problem last season. They I know they're not all the same muscle, Brendan, so forgive me, but they're relatively similar. Where could this have come from? Could this be fatigue? Could this be signs of the increased fixtures and the downtime that wasn't allowed? Or is it something else?
No, I think that's a huge part to play with it, Ian. I think that football players now, what they've been asked to play, and I think all of them in general have been amazing. If you look at the clubs, the club football, what the players are given to these games to make them real without supporters and the intensity that they're playing. But there's absolutely no doubt that the players are being asked to play in these games. If you look at this, the international,
I think
where they had 3 games to play, and it just, as I said, there's a lot being asked of players, and we're still so early in the season. So there's no doubt the lack of recovery time is, will hit players hard and hit clubs hard. But we just have to get on with it. It's part of the what's happened with the pandemic. We've been asked to play the games, and we have to try and manage it over the course of the season as best as we possibly can.
I'd imagine your medical team have come to you with this and suggested, look, these injuries are all in a similar kind of region, area, core based. What can you do? Can you mitigate against that? Because as you've suggested already, Brendan, it's early in the season and you're forward planning as you will do. Is there anything you can do to stop this happening in the future and maybe for other teams as well? Is something that collectively people are going to have to deal with more?
Well, I think it's something that each club will have, I'm sure, a very, very good medical and sports science team, and we're no different here. The guys here are first class, so they'll always monitor, obviously, where the injuries are, and look at all the sort of diagnosis for it, and then try and come up with a solution that gives the players, the best chance to be available, because that's what's also very, very important for a manager is the availability of players. I think if you look around these injuries, like Cags and whatnot, it's unfortunate. Cags, for all my time here, has been available virtually. He goes away and he gets injured while he's away. Johnny coming back, he's hardly had any pre-season, because of various issues. Now he's had to play up to 3 games and nearly 3 games in 10 days. So it's an awful lot of football for players, and they're not machines. The players are exceptionally fit nowadays, but they're not robots, and we have to try and find every which way to keep them as fit as we possibly can. But I know the guys here do that. The players themselves, they're so professional. They're so dedicated to their work, and our medical and sports science team behind is very, very good as well. So yeah, we'll just assess it as we go along.
That's my GCSE anatomy well and truly done when it comes to muscle groups, Brendan. So thank you for indulging me. You mentioned earlier on about starting the game slowly against West Ham United. You've had an incredible start. We've been there at every game, obviously. Do you think you've started most games slowly? Because I feel you've worked your way into quite a few games. Has a slow start been common this season, do you feel?
Yeah, it's fair. I think in 3 of the 4 games we've conceded the first goal, which is something that we need to rectify. But like you say, we keep that calmness to stay in it. I felt in the West Ham game, once we did go behind early, we rushed our game. We lost our attacking structure in the game, and then that made it easier for West Ham. So yeah, it's something that I always said when I came in, that was an area that is so important for any team. You want to start quick and finish the game strong. We continue to finish games strong in the main, but of course at the beginning of this season we haven't started as quick as we want. But we need to put that right.
Final question, Brendan. Your pay-per-view TV has been in the headlines regarding whether it's a good thing, bad thing, something that you're going to be featuring on over the course of the weekend. And evidently, if we believe reports, it was your football club, the only one out of the 20 that voted against this and didn't particularly see it as a good idea. I'm interested in your view on the model of £14.95 to watch a game on television that isn't within the subscription fee of TV goers.
Yeah, I obviously disappointed for supporters because, of course, at this moment in time, it's already very difficult for them. And if you can't afford to pay that, then you don't get the chance to see the game. So if it is in place now, of course, then I'm hoping it's not going to be for a sustained period of time because, like I say, football supporters, it's hurting them at the moment not being able to be at the games and what the relief they get is through watching it on telly. So we wouldn't want to, be losing many games to pay-per-view. But let's hope it's not going to be for a long period and until we get football supporters back in, that at very least they get the chance to see it on TV.
Of course, we paint some beautiful and romantic pictures on the radio, Brendan, where it's free of charge and part of your BBC licence fee. So that's something we'd be keen to promote. Good luck Sunday, Brendan.
Cheers, Ian. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, folks, I'm going to draw the broadcast section there. We'll go on to dailies just shortly. But for now, thank you to our broadcast colleagues.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick one, if that's all right?
We've just done about 20. We've done nearly 30 minutes, Mark. So I'm going to draw broadcast there. Thank you.
All right.